What assessment has the Welsh Government made of the impact of Brexit on Newport West?
Thank you, Brian, for that question. Llywydd, leaving the single market has worsened trading conditions with Europe to the detriment of businesses and consumers across Wales. Newport West is also affected by the UK Government's failure to replace more than £1 billion of Wales's European Union funding, while OBR analysis concludes that leaving the European Union will shrink the UK economy by 4%.
Diolch, Prif Weinidog, and thank you for those stark figures. We were told that Brexit would result in endless opportunities for frictionless trade and new deals around the world. While some of the promises made by the Vote Leave campaign look good on paper, the reality is now very different for people living in my constituency and across Wales. We've heard this week about supply chain issues causing medicine shortages for people with long-term health conditions, including diabetes, epilepsy and breast cancer. Brexit is affecting imports, and Welsh businesses looking to export their produce today face barriers which simply would not exist if we were part of the EU. And the Tories have broken their manifesto commitment to secure a trade agreement with the US. Failure to reach an agreement on tariff-free access to Canadian markets is especially hampering our cheese exports, an industry I know the First Minister takes a very keen interest in. First Minister, would you agree with me that broken promises around Brexit show yet again how the Tories cannot be trusted, are failing the people of Wales, and how we urgently need a general election?
Llywydd, members of the Senedd will remember very vividly the promises that were made here on the floor of the Senedd, how Wales would not be a penny worse off as a result of leaving the European Union. Although, in fact, of course, as we know, we are £1.3 billion worse off and will be worse off every single year as a result of that broken promise. Jayne Bryant Llywydd referred to frictionless trade. And of course, she is right that in that Canadian case, do you remember the days when Liam Fox used to go around telling us that these would be the easiest trade deals you've ever seen? How we would strike them round the world. Well, here we are with a Canadian trade deal where on the 31st of December, the ability of Welsh exporters to deliver into the Canadian market stopped. We were part of the EU cheese quota. Now that is no longer available to Welsh exporters. We have to rely instead on the rest of the world quota, a far smaller quota and far more difficult to sell. Only yesterday, cheese producers in North Wales contacted the Welsh Government to point to the fact that as of the 15th of January, they will need new animal health certificates in order to be able to export their goods on to Northern Ireland. Remember what the then Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, said? How over his dead body would there be a trade barrier down the Irish Sea. He said that, as I remember, several weeks before he then concluded a deal doing exactly that. And the consequence of that will now be felt amongst Welsh food producers in the north of Wales. Of course, Jayne Bryant is right, Llywydd. The so-called Brexit bonus has been exposed time after time for what it is. New barriers to trade, fewer opportunities for Welsh businesses, and an economy which is, for every single household, worth less than it would have been had we still been part of the European Union trading arrangements.